Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the most compelling dramas, heartbreaks, and triumphs of your favorite characters. Today is a beautiful day to explore the intricate web of relationships that keep us all captivated. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let us unpack the latest emotional roller coaster that has left fans completely breathless. Let us get right into the story. The delicate transition from lovers to friends is a path fraught with emotional landmines, and perhaps no two people are discovering this more painfully than Tyrell and Jessica. Their breakup was supposed to be a mature, amicable parting of ways, a mutual agreement to preserve the beautiful friendship that had always been the foundation of their bond. However, the reality of untangling intertwined lives is rarely so simple or clean. The lingering feelings, the unspoken expectations, and the heavy weight of nostalgia have transformed their supposedly platonic dynamic into a fragile glass house, waiting for a single misstep to shatter it completely. This precarious balance was put to the ultimate test during a milestone event that should have been a celebration of life and joy, Tyrell's birthday. The stage for this emotional confrontation was set with the best of intentions. Smitty and Martin, ever the loyal and devoted friends, had teamed up with Jessica to create a birthday surprise that would lift Tyrell out of his post-breakup melancholy. They spent hours meticulously planning, preparing, and decorating the space, pouring their hearts into every detail. Jessica, despite the awkwardness of their recent separation, was deeply involved in the process. She wanted to prove to herself and to Tyrell that their friendship could survive the romantic fallout. The room was transformed into a festive haven, a visual representation of the love and support that surrounded Tyrell. The balloons, the carefully chosen color scheme, and the thoughtful arrangement were all meant to convey a simple message: you are loved and you are not alone. However, when Tyrell finally walked through the door, the anticipation in the room quickly evaporated, replaced by a chilling wave of disappointment. Instead of showing gratitude or even a fleeting moment of joy, Tyrell's reaction was deeply cynical and defensive. He took one look at the elaborate decorations and immediately scoffed, harshly comparing the setup to the overly curated, superficial aesthetic of Banneker's Instagram feed. It was a cutting remark designed to mask his own internal vulnerability with a shield of sarcastic indifference. Tyrell was hurting, and in his pain, he lashed out at the very people who were trying to pull him back into the light. His inability to accept their kindness was a glaring symptom of a heart that was still bleeding from the loss of the relationship. Jessica's reaction to his ungratefulness was immediate and visceral. The disappointment washed over her face, eclipsing the hopeful smile she had worn moments before. She had put her own discomfort aside to do something special for the man she still cared for deeply as a friend, only to have her efforts mocked and dismissed. Unable to hold back her frustration, Jessica retaliated with a biting truth. She openly mocked his recent behavior, calling him out for his tendency to isolate himself from the world. She painted a pathetic picture of a man who had chosen to lock himself in his room, sitting in the suffocating darkness, listening to depressing music on a continuous loop. Her words were sharp, intended to pierce through his defensive armor and force him to look at the reality of his own self-pity. As the tension in the room reached a boiling point, the universe seemingly intervened. Right in the middle of their heated exchange, Jessica's phone buzzed with an incoming text message. The contents of the message remain a mystery, but its impact was instantaneous. Jessica's demeanor shifted from fiery frustration to sudden urgency. Without offering a single word of explanation, without a backward glance, and without so much as a simple goodbye, she turned on her heel and walked out the door. Her abrupt departure sucked the remaining oxygen out of the room, leaving behind a heavy, suffocating silence that amplified the tragedy of the ruined evening. For Tyrell, The moment the door clicked shut behind Jessica, a profound sense of regret and despair washed over him. The sarcastic bravado he had worn just moments before instantly crumbled, revealing the broken, desperate man beneath. He was utterly crestfallen, his heart sinking into his stomach as the reality of her absence set in. In that fleeting moment, he wanted nothing more than to chase after her, to grab her hand, and to beg her to stay. He wanted to apologize for his foolish pride and his defensive cruelty. But his feet remained rooted to the floor, paralyzed by the overwhelming fear that he had pushed her away for good. The birthday party, meant to be a celebration, had morphed into a stark reminder of everything he had lost. Recognizing the dangerous downward spiral their friend was entering, Smitty and Martin immediately shifted gears from party hosts to life coaches. They could see the despair in Tyrell's eyes, the way he was completely consumed by the sudden void Jessica had left behind. They knew they had to intervene before the darkness swallowed him whole. They sat him down, their voices a mixture of tough love and deep brotherly concern. They tried to explain the harsh realities of the present moment. They emphasized that he was standing at a critical juncture in his life, a time when he needed to focus on his own personal growth, his ambitions, and his future. They passionately argued that he could not afford to throw away the golden years of his youth, sacrificing his potential and his happiness at the altar of a broken relationship with one single girl, no matter how much she meant to him. Tyrell, however, was stubbornly resistant to their optimistic perspective. Drowning in his own sorrow, he made a melodramatic and heartbreaking declaration. He tearfully proclaimed that he was destined to regress, to revert to the man he was before Jessica had entered his life and brought color to his world. He threatened to become nothing more than a lonely, isolated chess enthusiast once again, a man who preferred the predictable, black and white logic of a chessboard over the messy, uncontrollable, and painful reality of human emotions. For Tyrell, the chessboard represented safety. It was a closed system where every move had a logical consequence, a stark contrast to the unpredictable chaos of love that had just left him shattered and alone. Refusing to let their friends surrender to a life of solitary confinement, Smitty and Martin decided to change their tactics. If logic and tough love were not working, they would appeal to his sense of possibility through the art of storytelling. They began to regale Tyrell with exaggerated, colorful tales from their own glorious youth. They painted vivid pictures of their past romantic conquests, boasting about how they possessed an irresistible charm that left women completely swooning in their wake. They recounted stories of heartbreak and triumph, of lost loves and new beginnings. Their goal was not just to entertain Tyrell, but to remind him that the world was vast, that life was long, and that the end of one chapter did not mean the end of the entire book. Through their humorous and slightly embellished anecdotes, Smitty and Martin delivered a profound and essential piece of advice. They urged Tyrell to channel his current pain into self-improvement. They advised him to cultivate his mind, his body, and his spirit to become the best possible version of himself. They promised him, with the unwavering certainty of men who had survived their own battles with heartbreak, that if he focused on his own growth, the universe would eventually reward him. They assured him that there would come a time in the not-so-distant future when another incredible woman, another Jessica, but one who was meant to stay, would walk into his life. And when that time came, they promised it would be a love that uplifted him rather than leaving him broken and bleeding. Meanwhile, in a completely different corner of the city, a parallel drama was unfolding that would add another layer of complexity to this tangled web. The setting was Orphe Jeans, a popular local hangout known for its ambient lighting, low hum of conversation, and the kind of atmosphere that naturally encourages deep, sometimes uncomfortable truths. Jessica had sought refuge there after her sudden departure from the disastrous birthday party, perhaps hoping to find a moment of peace to process the evening's events. However, peace was the last thing she was going to find. She was soon joined by Samantha, a woman who possessed a razor-sharp perception and an absolute intolerance for emotional ambiguity. Samantha had been observing the dynamic between Tyrell and Jessica from the sidelines, and she had finally reached her breaking point. Samantha did not mince words. She launched into a blistering critique of Jessica's recent behavior, specifically targeting her digital footprint. She fiercely criticized Jessica for continuously liking Tyrell's posts on Instagram. To Jessica, a simple double tap on a screen might have seemed like a harmless gesture, a digital olive branch meant to signal that she still cared, that she was still a supportive friend. But Samantha brutally deconstructed this naive assumption. She explained with unwavering intensity that those seemingly innocent likes were actually toxic seeds of false hope. Every notification Tyrell received with Jessica's name on it was a breadcrumb that kept him trapped in the labyrinth of his own heartbreak. It sent a dangerous message that she was still watching him, still monitoring his life, and perhaps still harboring romantic feelings. Samantha's voice cut through the ambient noise of Orphe Jeans with absolute clarity. She painted a grim picture of Tyrell's current psychological state, explaining that he was a man drowning in the darkness of a broken heart. And as long as Jessica kept throwing him these digital life preservers of false hope, he would never learn to swim to shore on his own. Samantha made it abundantly clear that nothing, no amount of friendly gestures, no birthday parties, no casual check-ins could pull Tyrell out of his depression as long as the lines between friendship and romance remained blurred. The mixed signals were not softening the blow of the breakup. They were prolonging the agony, keeping the wound fresh, and preventing any real healing from taking place. The climax of Samantha's fierce intervention was a harsh, undeniable ultimatum. She looked Jessica dead in the eye and delivered a truth that was difficult to swallow. The only thing that could truly heal Tyrell's desperate, fractured mind was absolute, unwavering decisiveness from Jessica. She needed to cut the cord. She needed to stop the likes, stop the check-ins, and step back completely so that Tyrell could grieve the loss of the relationship and figure out how to live without her. It was a bitter pill, suggesting that the most loving thing Jessica could do as a friend was to temporarily cease being one. Jessica, feeling cornered, misunderstood, and deeply attacked by Samantha's relentless accusations, reacted with immediate defensiveness. The anger flared in her eyes as she absorbed the heavy criticism. Unable to formulate a calm response to such a brutal assessment of her character, Jessica did the only thing she felt she could do in that moment. She stood up, her face flushed with fury, and stormed out of Orphe Jeans, leaving Samantha alone with the echoes of her harsh truths. This explosive sequence of events leaves us standing on the precipice of a massive emotional cliffhanger. The central question now hanging heavily in the air is what Jessica will do next. After absorbing the full weight of Samantha's scathing reprimand, will Jessica truly disappear without a trace? The idea of a complete ghosting, severing all ties, blocking numbers, and vanishing from Tyrell's life entirely seems incredibly cruel. Yet, according to Samantha, it might be the necessary amputation required to save the patient. If Jessica chooses this path of absolute silence, the immediate fallout for Tyrell will be catastrophic. The sudden, total absence of the woman he loves will undoubtedly plunge him deeper into the dark room he has been hiding in, forcing him to confront the terrifying reality of a world where she simply does not exist. Alternatively, is there another path forward? Is Jessica resourceful and emotionally intelligent enough to find a middle ground? Perhaps she will retreat into deep introspection, realizing that Samantha's delivery was harsh, but her underlying point was valid. Could Jessica find a way to redefine their boundaries clearly, communicating with Tyrell in a way that preserves the core of their beautiful friendship without constantly reopening his emotional wounds? This would require a monumental level of maturity from both of them. Tyrell would have to let go of his romantic fantasies and accept the new reality, while Jessica would have to learn how to be supportive without being enabling. The road ahead is shrouded in uncertainty, and as the dust settles on this chaotic birthday and the dramatic confrontation at Orphe Jean's, fans are left eagerly waiting to see if this beloved duo will ultimately find a way to heal, or if their beautiful friendship will become a permanent casualty of their broken romance.